Welcome to the fourth episode of the Cougar Playbook podcast. I'm Carter Gladhill, and with me today, one of my greatest friends, true mentor to me at CUC, and absolute stunning person who does everything that we need, Dani Gariglio. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Carter.
Thank you for coming on the show. First question we always ask everybody, how are you doing during these challenging times?
Good. No complaints. I'm back home in New York with my family, so that's been fun catching up with them. I don't know, trying to have fun, enjoy the summer a little bit until this is all over and things get really busy again.
Well, the move back to New York, how was that like?
It was stressful because it was I did it by myself because of COVID. You know, my family couldn't come and help me move out like they helped move me in. But got a moving truck. The stuff got here. I got here okay. A quick 12-hour drive. Made it in a day. So no complaints. I'm happy to be back home. But definitely miss Chicago and missing my CUC pals for sure.
Yeah, it's been Chicago. Definitely, it's coming around the time where you're able to go to the beaches a little bit. They're starting to open up. I was able to go to one, and I'm like, man, it's starting to feel a little bit more like normal. I think the biggest problem for me is that they don't have baseball back.
Itching to
with
play.
The draft that just happened this week, and then no baseball. It's kind of like, okay, hopefully everything goes coming back around. But
for sure,
I mean, it was it's gonna happen. But for you, so you were obviously the GA in the athletic communications department 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
People that don't know, Dani will not be returning as of right now, as she is graduated and she will be going on to bigger and better things in the world.
I don't know how much better it gets in CUC, but I do. I
master's in business administration. But I mean, you came to CUC you started college. You were at Rhode Island, and let's just say someone was a pretty good softball player there. Started a lot of games in center field, 4 years.
I was all right.
You went to Union College. You worked there. So you started off in Rhode Island, and you started off working kind of like what I'm doing right now. You started working in their sports information department. What was that like for you?
So it actually is pretty similar to you in a sense where my junior year, I was looking for an internship, and every year that I had been in school and every semester, basically, one of my teammates had interned in the sports information department. So I was like, okay, I'll do this. Like, I get to hang out with Shane, who is our SID and an awesome guy, like get to do some stuff for him. So I did like a 3-credit internship in their office that fall. So I got to like live tweet the football games, come up with game notes for my SAD to give to the media, and a lot of stuff that you kind of do for us now. And then once that internship ended in the fall, I was like, well, this is kind of fun. So I'm just going to hang around. You don't have to pay me, but I'm going to be here and just work with you anyways. So I basically volunteered the last year and a half I was in school, just got to work basketball games, football, men's soccer games. And then when it was time to graduate, I was like, this is kind of fun. So maybe I'll try to make a career out of it because I love sports and it's awesome. I get paid to watch sports and hang out with you guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a plus side to have an on-campus job that I have. But the interesting thing is that you were a D1 softball player, but Rhode Island, obviously D1 school, so a lot of bigger athletics. What was that like? Because obviously in the media's eyes and everything, D1 has its perks compared to the other divisions. But working at a Division I school in the sports information office, what was that like as a student athlete being able to be highlighted on that D1 platform?
It was pretty cool. I mean, I would say with Rhode Island being a mid-major school, obviously the softball team's not getting the same attention as an LSU or any team in the Power 5 conference, but we definitely had some like local guys come to games, local TV stations come, shoot like ads that the university was putting on the local Rhode Island television or doing little stories on us. But on a football and basketball side, being a student worker in that aspect, it was super cool after every home game, you know, like when there's 3 minutes left on the clock, it's like, okay, Dani, bring the printer to the press room. Like, we got to get the post-game books going, make sure you're stapling them, handing them out to the media. And it was cool as a college student getting to like understand that interaction at that age and how going into the field in a professional setting, how I kind of had an understanding of how to interact with the media, what they're looking for after games and before games, and stuff like that, just to cater to other people in the industry was really cool.
And then so after you graduated from Rhode Island, where stellar softball career you had, some of the career accolades you had. You had A10 academic all conference. You had the Rhode Island Elizabeth Holmes Award winner, and then you had the RIA IAW award recipient as well. So left your mark at Rhode Island. Very much always see you actively tweeting about Rhode Island. Pretty exciting when they did make a run in the tournament a couple years ago.
They did. Yeah, I'm a Rhode fan for life, that's for sure.
So after you left Rhode Island, you went to Union College and did your same kind of role there. What was that transition like, going from your like you said, mid-major school in Rhode Island, now to you're going down to your Union College?
Yeah, it was a big transition. It was a big step from going from being a student worker and kind of just helping out where I could to like full-fledged diving into the deep end, being responsible for so many sports at Union College. The university has 26 varsity teams, 2 of which are Division I, men and women's ice hockey, and then the other 24 teams are Division III. So it's cool because you kind of have that hybrid model, which isn't super common, but there's enough schools out there where it's a doable thing. And I had 13 teams that I was responsible for covering. So from Rhode Island, I went from just being the point person for the cross country teams. I just like wrote recaps for them. It was cool, and it was an awesome responsibility to take on as an undergrad. But then from there, I went from just writing recaps for cross country and helping out at home games to responsible for recaps for 13 different teams throughout the school year, home games, following what's going on away games, learning how to stack all the sports. That was probably the biggest hurdle. Is as a undergrad student, I got to help out with like calling basketball games here and there for our statisticians, but it wasn't anything like too in-depth. And then I had to learn basketball, learn volleyball, soccer, ice hockey, lacrosse, baseball, softball. Even though I played softball, I didn't know how to stat a softball game. I knew the rules and what kind of counts as an error or a base hit, but actually inputting it into the software is a whole different animal of its own, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely say when I was sitting even volleyball courtside and I'm seeing you guys do your liberos and all your other stat sheets, I'm like, wow, you guys really got it down. Especially knowing from the basketball side, like I was so accustomed to doing I knew how to do the box score sheet. I knew what was going on there. But then when you come along and you start broadcasting a game and you work in a different element of that and you start getting all these different stat sheets, you're like, oh, whoa. Like, I think I remember the first time I got the actual like game notes that we had for the basketball games, and you had all these tendencies, like what happens when the Cougars scored 80 points but only allowed 70, stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's a lot of information. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And I can see from your point of view exactly what you mean, is that it gets very confusing to be able to keep track of everything. And for 13 teams as well, that is a lot.
Yeah, it definitely was. And the interesting thing with statistics is that you could play a sport your entire life. Like when I was at Union College with one of the lacrosse teams, I remember the coach coming up to me and was like, hey, like so-and-so should have had like at least 10 more ground balls than he had. And I had to kind of go over the actual statistical definition of what a ground ball is, because you play the sport, but it's different than what the actual NCAA's rules are for what is deemed a statistic or not an actual statistic for an athlete. So it's kind of cool. I like it. It's its own little aspect of the game for sure.
And the other thing that a lot of people know you as, not only just doing all the statistics whiz, is that you also do a lot of Photoshop, Adobe stuff. And I think that's one thing, credit to CJ and the rest of the department that we have here, is that the creative elements that we got going on, I think at CUC, probably one of the best in the conference. And what we come up with on a weekly basis for teams, and how you have like the Twitter stuff and how we manage that. What was that like coming into CUC and helping to build that to where it is now?
Yeah, that definitely something I'm really proud of in my time at CUC is how CJ and I were able to work together and really like just take off with the social media. He had done such a great job before I even got there, but then when we got to work together, it was just like fireworks all the time. We were always trying to come up with new ideas and stay ahead of the game, and that was really cool. And something from Union to CUC was that at Union, I had 13 teams, and it was so busy all the time, just trying to get the bare minimum done for those teams and give them the kind of coverage that they deserve. So now going to CUC, where I only had 5 teams that were solely my responsibility. So I took care of what needed to be done for those 5 teams. And then I had all this extra time to get to be creative and have fun and try new things. And I didn't just have to take care of my teams. I could do stuff for volleyball and football and women's basketball, even though those necessarily weren't my teams per se. Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that I've learned has just been over the last 2 years of either getting ideas off CJ or CJ and I spending the afternoon looking up YouTube videos on how to, oh, we saw LSU make this cool video, let's see how we can do it too, and just watching videos and trying our best to match what they're doing and stay on top of the game with that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you always go to YouTube if you need help. And you'll probably say one of the highlights with all of that was, I mean, my personal favorite are the Valentines. Those Valentine's designs are fantastic. They always get
Those
me
are so
laughing.
fun.
But if you want to talk about like an actual like graphic takeover, I think CIT, with like the amount of graphics that were made into the programs, the media notes, and everything that went around that was posterized and everything, that was
Hmm.
very, very cool. I mean, that was my first CIT, but
Yeah.
that was honestly super cool walking in there and making Geisman feel larger than life, especially with all those people there.
Yeah, the transformation that Geisman went through that week leading up to CIT was amazing. Between like the marketing department and the basketball teams trying to come up with posters to hang out on campus, get everybody ready for this week. And every day CJ was making a countdown graphic to throw on Twitter. Kayla McLeod made that awesome hype video leading up to it. I think it was like 24 hours before or whatever. And then just, I think it was the day before, the morning before all the teams arrived for their practice, CJ and I were going around taping up those "This is our house" sign on all the doors. So it was so cool to have everybody walking in and being like, wow, this is so cool. Like, we don't have this here every day, but we have it now, and this is really awesome.
And some might even say that, like, Geisman, like you said, it's not a huge gym. Some might even have played in a high school gym that's larger than that. But I think the really
Yeah.
cool thing about CUC and what we do in the department is that we were able to take that small gym, some might even say a high school gym, and we really rebranded it. And now with the new court that came in that CJ designed that looks really good, it's starting to take the new form of that is really, really coming along really well.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we got, like you said, we got the banners hung up the week of CIT of all the teams' conference championships and World Series appearances and stuff like that, to the new scoreboard decals. And in 4 years, when CIT is back at CUC, it's going to be even bigger and better than it was this year, I think.
I don't know. I mean, you might not be there, and that's a problem.
Yeah, you won't even be there. You'll be coming back as an alumni, or
Who
maybe
knows?
you'll
We'll see. We'll see.
be the official voice of the Cougars or something. Who knows?
We'll see. But I think one of the cool dynamics that you had, especially as a GA, but then also too, like you're a younger person that I think a lot of people can relate to. I mean, you had your group of girls, and I think you always had your gossip talk, and I usually stayed away from that because I usually don't get at the beginning of it. But I always find that you get along well with the student workers, and I think part of that is because you're young. But what does that mean to you to be able to kind of mentor and teach people that are still learning what you did when you were coming up and still is young enough to understand everything?
Yeah. Well, especially with my volleyball girls, we love to talk about the Bachelor and the Bachelorette and all that stuff. But I appreciate you saying that too. So I hope like in 15 years, I can still relate to you guys as much as I can right now. But I don't know, something I think is cool. Obviously, right now, there's a smaller age difference between all of us. But another thing is I've been in your shoes. I've been a student athlete. I've been a student worker for the athletic communications department. Like, I understand what you guys are going through between, you leaving work early because you got to go to your 10 to midnight practice or whatever it is, or the volleyball girls or soccer girls coming in tired because they just finished a workout and now they got to come to work. It's just, I've been in your shoes and trying to just keep things light and fun. And, when I was in school, getting to work basketball games or football games, that was such an outlet for me and something different I could do. None of my teammates really worked in that department. So I kind of had my own little family of friends in my work group of student workers. And I feel like you guys kind of have that same energy where maybe there's not a lot of your teammates or close friends who do it, but you guys have your own little unit within our little athletic communications family. So I just try to be a part of that too, and just keep things light and make sure that we're always having a good time, even though we all know when it's time to get down to business too.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the small knit family. Like, I probably would have never watched a women's lacrosse game in my life. was never a huge lacrosse fan. But then you got people like Ryan McGee and Bailey Steinkamp, who I knew from basketball, so you had your connection there. And then they're
Yeah,
playing lacrosse, and you see that they go 5-0, and you're like, oh, wow, I was actually at that game. That was pretty cool. You talk about
yeah,
that, like the tight-knit family that you do have. I think that's something that's very unique to a D3 school, especially even a smaller department that is comprised of a lot of student athletes, because it's
yeah,
really just you have a lot in common, and that's pretty special for a group and that's able to function at a high level.
exactly. Yeah, and it's cool. You may not otherwise had friends on the women's lacrosse team or gone and seen women's lacrosse team, but with Grace and Ryan being in our student worker team, you're rooting a little harder for them because you know they're going to be out there and you want them to get the win, you know?
Exactly.
It's
But
cool.
during your time at CC, so obviously a lot going on there. What would probably say one of your highlights of your moments? I mean, I have mine in mind where I think I know what yours is, but I just want to hear what yours was.
Okay. Top moments, you're saying?
It'd be
Best
top
moment.
moment, top moments.
Um, hmm. But there's a couple. This is a tough question. So last year, building up to hosting the regional was really cool. I didn't get to be at the regional because my brother was graduating that weekend, so I didn't get to kind of see it all come together. But just being a part of that Monday through Thursday, getting the programs ready, selection show Monday, all that stuff, that was really cool. Going with the track and field team to nationals last year was awesome. It was such a cool experience. I really had no experience with track before, and it's a sport that I have so much more respect for now after going with Kayla and Simone, just like witnessing what it's like for them. And I mean, they came away all Americans. That was awesome. And then CIT obviously was just huge. We worked like from September 1 till that last weekend of January, getting everything ready for that. And it was so cool to just see it all come to fruition. And like, I sat at 7 basketball games in like a 22-hour period. My eyes were exhausted after the fact. I think I was just like thinking in basketball code for the rest of that week. But CIT was awesome. The energy in that gym was electric, so that was really cool. What did you think it was?
I thought it was the one game. He appeared twice at Concordia basketball games. It was when actually the one
Oh yes,
referee from
okay.
The Bachelor actually came.
That
But
was super cool. Yeah, so for those who are watching and don't know the story, it was like a Wednesday night women's
it
basketball
was a
game. I think,
totally random basketball game. It was
yeah,
just
it
another
was just
game.
a midweek, midseason basketball game. I believe it was a women's game. And the referees come up to the scorers table at the beginning of the game. They're just giving everybody fist bumps. And I'm looking, and so the 2 of the volleyball players are my spotters while I'm statting. And I look at them and I'm like, that guy looks a lot like Diggy from The Bachelor. And they were like, oh no, you know who was Chandler was spotting for me. So
Yeah.
Chandler is a baseball player. He had absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like, Chandler, that is Diggy. Like, I swear it's him. I'm a huge Bachelor franchise fan, for those of you who don't know. And then, like, it's in between timeouts. I'm trying to look him up on Instagram, and I'm showing Chandler. And we're like, it's not him. He's too short. He looks taller on TV. And then the volleyball girls find out that I think this is Diggy, and they start freaking out. And then all of a sudden, Jalen Johnson is like, are you Diggy from The Bachelor? And he was like, yeah, I am. And we just went so crazy. We had our own little celebrity in the gym for the night. And after the game, he took photos with us and was telling us all the secrets to Bachelor in Paradise. That was pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I never understood it because I've never really watched The Bachelor. But you can
Yeah.
just see, like, at the end of the game, I'm up at the booth with, I think, Ryan or Sam. And we're just seeing you guys all talk to the one referee. And we're like, nobody's ever given a referee that much attention, especially after a basketball game. It must be something important.
Yeah. After that, I went up to our administrators and I was like, let's try to get him to ref every game because we love Diggy. He's awesome.
It was a
And he was a
clean
good
game.
ref
It was
too.
a
He
clean
called a good
game.
game.
Yeah, it was a really good game. Nothing controversial. It's straight up just good basketball.
Exactly.
So you're not coming back as of now. As of now, hopefully. I always say as of now because I keep my fingers crossed that you actually do come back at some point. But what
Yes.
do you have planned for you in the future?
Uh, the future is wide open. You know, right now it's a little tough to find a job with the COVID-19. Obviously, a lot of places are not really sure what the fall is even going to look like for them, but I'm staying optimistic. I'm keeping my eye on the job boards and trying to apply for stuff that seem interesting to me. But I definitely want to stay involved in college athletics and in athletic communication. So that's kind of where I'm looking at right now. Just got to be a little more patient, and hopefully some stuff will start to open up in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, and it was definitely a weird transition because of the whole COVID thing. I think you like you mentioned, you have a really unique perspective because of the fact that you are a one student athlete. You're still young enough to work with everybody. What was it like to see the people that you were working with, like just get that weird news? Because when we came back from when we were in Florida and I was with CJ, the week started off as what the heck is COVID-19 to leaving on a Saturday and you're like, COVID-19 just canceled our season. What's going on?
Right. Yeah, that was a crazy week. Cause so I was in Florida too with the softball team. And I remember maybe one of the first nights we were there, we had this like team barbecue dinner at the resort we were staying at. And CJ had come just to say hi to people. And I remember looking at the athletic trainer, Megan, for the softball team. And I was like, how dangerous is this? Because people are starting to freak out a little bit. It wasn't that week, things happened so fast from Saturday or Sunday when we got there to that Thursday when everything kind of went down. But she was just like, I think it's fine, like for younger people. Nobody really knew too much about it yet. And we were just all kind of like, it's fine. We're here. We're going to play. And that's that. And then I think it was Thursday, we had an off day. And, Rudy Gobert had tested positive in the NBA. And that was kind of like, okay, the NBA is canceling. And then the Big Ten canceled, and then the SEC canceled. And I was like, okay, like if these bigger conferences are doing it, it's probably only a matter of time until this kind of shakes down to where we're at. And then Friday morning was the last two games of our Florida trip anyways for the softball team. And just before the first game, I think, of the softball doubleheader day on Friday, we got the news from the NAC that the rest of the season was canceled. So the girls didn't really know. I think they kind of went into it having an idea that maybe these were going to be the last two games, but they didn't officially know until the game ended on Friday, which was crazy. If you're a Cougar fan, you know how that game ended in a walk-off home run. So it couldn't have been any more of a special ending for them. But at the same time, it was pretty gut-wrenching too. They ended on such an incredible note, but then to be told your season was over when that team was just starting to click on all cylinders, it was sad. And then Kristen and Taylor on the softball team were two of our student workers, and I just felt for them because I had such a hard time when my career came to an end, and I had a full season to mentally prepare for that. I can't imagine it being ripped away from you in a matter of minutes. So that was tough.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of the game, I was lucky enough to work on that awards video that we had, or highlight video, and it was really cool to watch that. I think the other thing that was really cool is that both the CUC baseball team and softball team were featured on SportsCenter, and Taylor and
Yeah.
Kristen had their picture at like one of the title pictures of Scott Van Pelt's senior night. I think that's really cool, and it was an awesome picture just to see how you have the two schools that usually wouldn't do anything together, just
Yeah.
totally different parts of the country, but you see the other team making a bat tunnel and everybody cheering on these teams as they're coming out. That was definitely a really, really cool moment for, I think, everybody in the CUC community. You could definitely feel for that.
Yeah, that was incredible. And like all shout out and love to Alfred University because they were the ones that came up with that idea. They were like, this team did it for us yesterday. We would like to do this for you. And that was super cool. And the cool thing too about that moment was that was in the top of the seventh inning going into a 1-1 game of what was going to be, like it was a stalemate. It was such a good game. And this team like put that aside, put the business aside, and was like, these seniors deserve this little moment and we're going to give it to them. And that was really cool.
That's
So
really cool.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So last thing, I know you're a huge softball fan, but we also got baseball. I don't know if you've been keeping up with any of the baseball talks between the union and the league, but
Hmm.
let's say you were the commissioner, but you have all these other leagues coming around. You've got the NBA that's starting in the end of July. You've got
Hmm.
hockey potentially coming back. And you got NFL that's actually starting to do like the virtual workouts transition to real workouts. What is your take on it, and what would you suggest for the people that are like actually just anticipating that baseball would come back?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, I hope baseball comes back too. And I think the MLB is probably starting to feel some pressure because they're kind of the last ones to the party here on actually figuring out how to take the next steps. Obviously, they want to be safe, and I completely understand and respect that decision, but it's tough. The players obviously want more. So if the people in charge really care about having a baseball season, I think they're going to have to give in a little bit more than they are right now, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yes, it will be interesting, very interesting, because they got youth baseball already going on in my area. They got like the little 10-year-olds running around. I'm like, okay, if the little 10-year-olds are running around, then let's just get a bunch of the 30-year-old veterans out there and let's see some baseball.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Dani Gariglio, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you on. It was nice to reconnect with you.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Hopefully, when all this is over, you'll stop by CUC at one point. It'd be very nice to see you. Best of wishes on whatever is in the future. I know the future is bright for you, and there's a
You
lot
too, buddy.
of benefit for you wherever you go.
Oh, thank you. Well,
All
let
right.
me flip the interview on you real quick.
Okay.
What was your top moment as in your first year of being a student worker with us?
I think the top moment for me, obviously CIT was awesome, and that was like the highlight. Like I felt like that whole week that was going up and made the media packet, and I got like stuffy at the beginning of the week, so I literally came in with like 20 bags of throat coat in my bag before I went onto the air. I'm like, there's 8 basketball games, whatever. I think probably the coolest moment that I had with us this fall, it was either be the first football pregame show that Macy and I did, or it
The
was
live one?
the
first
home one.
live
That was
one?
really cool because I mean, there's a difference between like recording and then actually doing a home one. And I just remember the cool shot of like Macy and I hugging after because we were like, oh my gosh, we finally did it. We're done. Okay, let's just go up and go behind our screens for a little bit. I think the coolest moment for me was probably when CJ invited me up to the booth to do play-by-play, do color commentary for the first time. I think especially weird when you get like an antsy freshman that wants to do stuff to bring someone up. And I think that really opened the door for me to feel really comfortable in the department because that's kind of like where I was going. And obviously I do like the video and the graphic stuff, but those are like my strong suits. So when he invited me up there and you started seeing him just mentoring me, and it was like, okay, now you're going to work with Sam Brief and Ryan Fahey. And like, okay, that's another step up. And I think the coolest, like the culmination of all that when I was able at the end of the year, he's like, I don't want to talk anymore. Go ahead and do the game. And the double header, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he put you in the driver's seat.
Yeah, no, but I think that's definitely when I got called up into the booth or the first home pregame show, definitely the cool moments of my first year.
That was awesome. You crushed it. So keep being a sponge. You're awesome.
That was a good reflection right there. Got me thinking, good interview right there.
Got to spin it on you, keep you on your toes.
All right. Well, thank you for everybody that tuned into the 4th episode of the Cougar Playbook podcast. We will be back next week with a new guest, a new episode, and we'll be talking CUC athletics and more. So thank you. And as always,
Thanks, Carter.
go Cougars.
Go Cougs.